Good evening. This is Stan Matthews and Ken the Wonder Boy Carter here, and the Matthews broadcast on this Monday, the 2nd of October, racing towards the end of the year. The mums are everywhere. The hay bales are everywhere. I'm even seeing Cornelius a little bit of the corn out, dried corn, carrot. Everything is out now. Everywhere you go in the state of New Jersey, it looks beautiful. I was coming down 287 on Friday night to see a forum at the Black Issues Convention with a good friend of mine who sits on the executive committee, and our guest in this segment was one of the persons at that forum. I invited him, he agreed to come. We've had the other two, so we certainly wanted to give equal time to having our guest. As you know, the Matthews broadcast is based on 4 principles. The first, of course, is alignment. The second is empowerment. The third, upliftment. And the fourth, enrichment. The alignment principle comes directly from the book of the beginnings, Genesis. Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 to 28 says, "And God made man and woman in his likeness and image and gave them authority to rule." Further, in Psalm 82, verse 6, Moses speaking, "And I tell you, ye are gods and the children of the Most High God." So in our view, the way to live the life that you desire, the kingdom life, is to align with your divine identity. Align with your divine identity. Second principle is the principle of empowerment. And here we go to the book of Timothy. Timothy chapter 1 verse 7, "And I have not given you a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind." So all of us are created in a very powerful way. I think we have talents and gifts in which we can do some awesome things. Our guest is going to talk about some of the awesome things he has done since he had the privilege of pastoring his own flock in Highland Park. So don't let anyone tell you what can't be done. On this broadcast, myself and co-hosts and all of us, all of our staff, we are not here to talk about your limitations or to remind you of your limitations, but to declare what your possibilities are. Absolutely. How high you can go is our mission on this broadcast. The third principle of this broadcast is the principle of upliftment. And here we hear the voice of our poet laureate, Maya Angelou. In one of my favorite pieces, Sister Maya says, "People may forget what you said. They may even forget what you did, but they will never ever forget how you make them feel." So we are all charged with the responsibility of making each other feel like the kings and the queens that they truly are, the special people that they truly are. So listen to Sister Maya. We can hear her voice ringing in eternity. People will never forget how you made them feel. Final principle, enrichment. Well, enrichment, or the word wealth, or the word abundance or prosperity, is mentioned in the Holy Scripture more than 800 times. So, you know, as one of the Proverbs said, God rejoices when his people prosper. Right from Yeshua ben Joseph, the man the world knows as Jesus the Christ, "I have not come," right? You want to finish that for me?
You go ahead. Hitting the King James. Keep going.
"I came," right? "That you might have life."
And life in abundance.
"And have it how?"
In abundance.
Thank you, Pastor. So you know it better, better than most. He came that you might have life and have it abundant. So I believe it is a misreading of the scripture, misinterpretation of the holy word, that there is some virtue in suffering on this earth. That somehow this was the intended quality of life of all of God's citizens. In the last election, the hue and cry was the 99% versus the 1%. People all around this country and all around this world are getting the sense that our economic and political system is really not there for them, but is there for a small minority who own and control everything. And so we have to work together to build a collective harvest for all of us. If indeed that proverb is right, that God rejoices when his people prosper, then we have to work collectively and put together the kind of institutions, and we're going to hear about some of those, and we're going to hear about some ideas in which we could bring that collective harvest for all of us. We start every broadcast by being in a place of gratitude. There are no two more powerful words than thank you. So thank you for all of those who email us, to write us, who text us, who stop us on the street. Keep on doing what you're doing, Ken Carter. Keep on doing what you're doing, Cornelius Hill. I always kid Cornelius. People can never say that what occurred in this broadcast didn't happen because he's got dozens of pictures as proof. So I'm not worried about anyone questioning what we say or what we do. It is recorded live. You see us, and those of you who watch, and we thank you so much for all that you do to make this possible. As I shared a couple of weeks ago, this broadcast is going to be going national on next Monday on the Impact Television Network, which is the only black-owned, inspirational, faith-based network in the country, a husband and wife team from Detroit. And we are glad that we will be getting that 10:30 slot. And so, you know, the eyes on us will move from the hundreds of thousands to the millions in less than a week. Cornelius, I don't know about you, but my butterflies are getting goosebumps. That's a lot of people, man.
That's all right.
But God is great and greatly to be praised. I am, you know, when I think about our journey together, talking to Cornelius because he's been with me from the beginning, it's amazing. It's amazing, and it's a humbling thing. And so I think we must please the one who sits on high and looks low, because he has continuously lifted us up during this process and opened new doors, helped us to make new friends like the one that's here with us tonight. So with that said, I am excited. I am going to turn it over to Ken Carter to share in some questions with our guest, and hopefully you'll be edified and inspired. In fact, no, I'm going to take that back. I know you will. Elsie Foster Dublin, if you were watching, I have your buddy, as you said, with me. I know you led the search committee to bring this young man from Vermont. I hope you're satisfied with what he is doing, and you are probably behind what he's doing politically. So, you know, you're one of those forces of nature that doesn't quit, lady. I'm just proud to call you friend.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you so much, and welcome, Pastor Seth Kepperdale, to the show. It's exciting because whenever I hear people in the community who are doing things and bringing people together of all nationalities, of all races, to empower them and help them to grow, I get excited because that's really part of my philosophy. Tell me, where's your church located, Pastor?
So my wife and I are pastors of the Reformed Church of Highland Park. We're about a 10-minute walk from the train station in New Brunswick.
Awesome, awesome. And how long have you been pastoring that church?
We've been co-pastors for 16 years. We came straight from Princeton Theological Seminary. We came to New Jersey from Ecuador, where we'd served in a children's home called Principe de Paz. And before that, college in Michigan. And then, like you said, I'm from Vermont initially.
Awesome. And I was talking to you earlier, and you talked about some of the programs that were operating out of your parish. Can you share that with us?
Sure. And if you don't mind, I love the scripture verses that were voiced, and I just want to say a couple things. Every Sunday morning we say, on earth as it is in heaven, because we believe that what God wants is a beautiful earth that reflects the very best of what's divine. And we also say, you know, the Sermon on the Mount, blessed are the poor in spirit, or blessed are those who've had the spirit beaten out of them, for theirs is the kingdom of God. That doesn't mean for theirs is the pie in the sky someday when you die. It's theirs is the kingdom of God on this earth right now.
Absolutely.
Blessed are those who mourn, they should be comforted right now. And we need to be thinking about Las Vegas today in particular, right?
Absolutely.
And blessed are those who are the meek. They shall inherit not the heavens, the earth. So that's my philosophy. And the other thing we say in my church every Sunday is the last shall be first and the first shall be last.
That's what caught me.
Yeah.
And we had a chance to chat at the reception before the forum where he and the lieutenant governor candidate, and the other gubernatorial candidates were. Why don't you flesh out the last shall be first concept?
Yeah, I'll do that, and I'll flesh it out while answering the question about the
Sure.
ministries.
Sure.
For me, the direction of our eyes as people of faith ought to be always, firstly, on the last. The scriptures are not about a trickle-down kind of world. We hear all sorts of stories about well springs in the desert, wellspring in the desert. And whenever you see a desert, whenever you see a place where people have been made last, where there's not enough water, where there's not enough food, where there's not enough whatever's needed for abundant life, that's where you turn your eyes and your attention, and that's where you hope for a breakthrough.
Right.
And that's where you work for a breakthrough. It's not just about hoping. So the kinds of breakthroughs that we have carried out in our community. First of all, we came to a church that had 35 white folks, and now there's 500 members representing 55 countries, first-generation immigrants from 55 countries, as well as tremendous diversity of black and brown people who've been here for many, many generations. So it's an incredibly diverse congregation. We didn't get there by suddenly the Protestant architecture of our building suddenly attracting people from all over. What we did is we created real programs that were about the last being first. It was through after-school programs that we have, summer camps that were affordable. It's through creating a cafe where all the chefs are refugees. It's through starting a reentry program called Neighbor Corps, where we focus on a GPS model of gainful employment, personal development, and social reintegration. And we have navigators, a GPS navigation system. That's our program in the county jail. I started an affordable housing corporation. We built housing for youth aging out of foster care on the roof of my church building. We said people should be, the church should be a YIMBY community, not a NIMBY community. A yes in my backyard or a yes on my roof community.
Right.
And we've now blossomed into a housing corporation that has 23 buildings and 125 tenants. And our tenants are all folks chronically homeless, mentally ill folks, folks reentering and studying at Rutgers through the Mountain View program, homeless veterans. That was our response to the Iraq War, was to say if there's billions available to destroy other countries, we ought to be able to have millions to put back together the lives of those who are forced to serve in this mess that we live in. So those are the kinds of things that my congregation engages in. While I'm sitting here tonight, there's a group of folks at the Elizabeth Detention Center. Every Monday and every Wednesday, we visit people from all over the world who are locked up as their entry into America after they've escaped genocide or they've escaped LGBTQ abuse because they're coming out of Nigeria, or any of the other things that lead people to flee. And we work for people's release, and then we move them into our church building, and then we move them into apartments that we rent and work with them to get what you need to move from being last to being first. That's the thing we find. If you just trickle resources into places, it's very hard to move from last to first. But if you really believe that people can rise, you give them what they need and the support needed to really make that move. And we've seen it work time and time again.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. There's such a need for what you're doing in your church ministry. And it inspires me because one of the things that I do in my business, and that's financial services, but I also am a teacher, and I teach financial literacy and entrepreneurship. And I'm ready right now to go down and give you some time gratis in front of your audiences to teach them about the basic rudiments of financial literacy and entrepreneurship. And that's being recorded right now, and that's my commitment to you.
Fantastic. I will definitely take you up on that offer.
Wow.
Great,
Thanks.
great. Tell me now, I'm looking at some political literature here. Pastor, it says that you're running for governor, and you have a running mate, Miss Lisa Durden, who are running for governor under the Green Party. Share that with us.
Yes. So I have always been a Democrat. I voted Democrat my entire life. And 4 years ago, after 4 years of Governor Chris Christie, who I thought was a bully to teachers, a bully to the private sector, someone who was very committed to draining resources from the neediest communities in our state, while at the same time handing out corporate welfare in the hundreds of millions at the same time. 4 years into his time, the Democratic electorate here decided they wanted Barbara Buono to be the gubernatorial candidate. And so she won the primary, and between the primary and November, I watched the bosses in this state undo the choice of the people. And 60 elected Democrats worked hard to undo her candidacy, and they publicly endorsed Chris Christie. And there were many people who didn't publicly make that endorsement, but who did the kind of work to keep people from getting to the polls. Only 39% of the voters, the registered voters in the state of New Jersey, went to the polls last time we had a gubernatorial election. One of the worst turnouts in American history. And that was the hard work of the party bosses. And so when I walked into a voting booth and had the option of supposed to be a 2-horse race, but one of the horses had its legs chopped off, I decided I will never vote for the party that cuts the legs off its horse. You can't demand it be a 2-horse race and then do that to your horse if the bosses who actually put that horse in there did what they could to keep her out. Right. So I told my wife 4 years ago, I'm going to run for governor sometime because I can't stand what's happening. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, back in September of this past year, when I saw pre-primary, those same party bosses who had blessed Chris Christie make a sort of pronouncement that they had chosen their guy before the primary season even started. That is when I said to my wife, not only am I thinking about this, and not only am I considering it, I'm running. And I'm running for a party that believes in people and peace and planet over profit, which is what the Green Party's motto is, and it's very much what I proclaim every week from the pulpit, and it's very consistent with my ideals. So I'm running to win, and I'm running not only the last are first as a whole set of agenda items that we can talk about in a minute, but it's also it's a way to win. 61% of the electorate didn't vote last time. So I want to win the 61%. And to be honest, the 39%, they can be split between the D's and the R's. And I'm not going to try to convert the faithful. I don't believe in forced conversion in religion or politics. I need to show a new way. And if people want to get on board with a wellspring from the desert, they'll do that. And if not, that's all right. I got 61% in my favor.
Awesome.
Now, like Bernie, you certainly are on fire, Seth. There is much to applaud you for in the ministry.
Thank you.
But there would be some who would say ministry and governing are two different things. Governing, there is the reality of a budget, and there are boundaries, and constraints economically of what we can do. How does the last shall be first concept make it into become a governing policy that will not blow the budget of the state of New Jersey and force us to be in a situation where we end up as a state even more indebted than we are under my former classmate in law school.
Okay.
So
I
didn't say friend, I said classmate.
Well, a couple of things to say first. I think somebody who actually has to live within a budget, like me, my wife and I together make $60,000 a year. That's what we make, and that's after 16 years serving in our church. We have to make a choice every week about how we spend money. We know about budgets, and a church community too. We never can just get out of control with our spending. We make wise decisions, and we live within our means. And so I think that in a world where billionaires and where well-connected political people who have to make different people's pockets get filled on the way to doing the right thing are kind of trusted with the budget, that's part of the problem. We need to get back to having sound fiscal people, meaning normal people with normal budgets, being people that make decisions about the state's piggy bank. So that's just my first thoughts on that. But in terms of the last or first, there's two ways I like to talk about how it moves into a political platform. Firstly, when I'm talking to those who are experiencing being last, and I mean dead last, first of all. So when I go into communities, and I've spent most of my time in Patterson and Camden and Newark and a bunch of places, in places where in the neighborhoods that are the hardest neighborhoods in the state. And when I ask folks, what do you need? They say, I've lived here my whole life and there's less resources for my children than when I was a child here. There's less organized recreational sports. There's less funded after-school programs. There's less qualified child care centers. One woman told me she takes 2 buses to get her child to a qualified child care center that will take the $4 hourly reimbursement that the state now gives to those who are on, for qualified aid. That's the same $4 that was available 16 years ago. There's been no increase in 16 years on what we pay for people to have their infants cared for. So when the last are first, we look seriously at these things and we make sure that we're given real resources. If the last are first, we make sure no one ever loses the right to vote. If you go to jail, you're still a full human being, and we must not allow for the potential of fraud to sneak into things and people getting put in jail for somebody else's political agenda. We want folks voting on their child's who's on the school board in their neighborhood. We want them engaged as citizens while they're inside. If folks are locked up, we don't want them working for $1 a day in some indentured servitude sort of role. So we need to look seriously at how people are treated and whether they can work and begin to earn money to support their family on the outside while they're locked up. So that's one way of looking at the last are first, is to look really at those who are very, very last and to ask what their priorities are. Also, though, a lot of things that bless all of us are last or first agenda. So people always say, how are you going to pay for all this? And first of all, I say, a lot of the things I propose really aren't about money. Like, for example, getting driver's licenses to undocumented residents is actually a big boon for the economy because people can get to work and they can take care of their families and they can get to the store. But that, as it may, we need more money in the system for sure. So there's three big things for me. The first thing is single-payer Medicare for all. And that is the absolute key to changing New Jersey. And the fact that it's not being talked about by either of the two candidates, I think, is a huge problem. Right now, 33 cents on every dollar spent on health-related costs in New Jersey goes straight into overhead and profit for unregulated private health insurance firms. And we need that 33 cents back. All of us do.
Yes.
565 municipalities pay too much in their property taxes. Why? Because we have to pay 19% or so of our budget going straight toward those unregulated health insurance policies for the employees who work in the schools and in the municipality. If we had a single payer system, we would move down to 6% employer contribution, and that would be enough, we believe. If all employers had a new 6% payroll tax, everyone in the state of New Jersey, whether they're working or not, could be covered by New Jersey's single-payer Medicare for all. You'd see taxes go down around the entire state if we really moved to taking care of each other's health better. So it's a win-win, a win for health and a win for money. The cost of higher education would go down dramatically. Right now, the state can't pitch in much for tuition. And you've heard Murphy talking about $200 million or $400 million. That's not enough money. There should be a lot more money to bring down the cost of tuition. And why can't they right now? Because we pay so much money to cover the health insurance costs of those who work within the universities and the county colleges. If we could get to a place where that is covered through single-payer Medicare for all, and the state knows what it's paying, that would allow a lot more money to be available for tuition. You look at the pension fund and the health benefits crisis that we have with state employees. The reason we can't ever pay the full pension fund is because you put pension and benefits together. The benefit number goes up, 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 up through that private, unregulated reality. We kick the can on the pension. We always pay that private health insurance amount. If we could bring that down to something realistic through New Jersey single-payer Medicare for all and give everybody excellent health care, we'd be able to pay that pension every single year. So that is the biggie that's about the last or first, and it would change the state. There's more proposals, but let you get your question in.
Now there were a large applause in the room when you said that. Medicare for all in the state.
Yes.
And the Jay Hill, who was the moderator, had asked everyone not to clap at all. So obviously, Seth's point resonated because they clapped anyway.
Right.
And so, what do you think intuitively people feel somewhere inside that has got that emotional response?
I think the thing that gets people firstly is that it's just awful to think that if someone goes through a health crisis, that sinks them financially. Like there's something in us that knows. And I believe that's actually a spiritual thing. We know we're supposed to stop and care for those who are down. And we see it happen in America. The line outside the blood banks in Las Vegas today was like 300 people long to give blood to help with yesterday. We care about the health of each other. And so I think that innately people know that. But I think the piece I really want them to clap for is the economic freedom that could come to all of us. We could have $15 an hour and way more than $15 an hour if employers didn't have to worry about the unregulated health insurance increases each year. We could have folks move from 28 hours to 40 hours a week for work because their employer wouldn't say, I can't move you past 28 because then I have to pay for your health insurance, right?
Right.
Small business employees wouldn't have to worry about folks running away to go to a new job where they can get benefits because you'd have benefits already. We would have all these opportunities. And imagine if you didn't like your job and you could make the choice to change and to follow your calling, right? I mean, we talk all the time about like the doctrine of vocation, we call it in reform circles, but about, God actually calling us to different things. But right now, those benefits that are tied to your workplace sometimes keep you from the calling, keep you from being the entrepreneur that you think you could be. We need to allow ourselves the freedom to see this economy take off, and it can only happen, I think, if we can disconnect health care from employer responsibility. It should be the responsibility of all of us to care for each other's health and to set ourselves free from the economic bondage that we're experiencing.
Well, I think for those of you watching, you understand why we were all quite intrigued with this young man.
Blown away already.
I think he's one to keep your eye on. Cornelius is. I think he has something to say, and I think his voice will be heard from in this election and beyond. Final thoughts. I'll give you a minute. We have another guest that we need to move into a segment. Final thoughts. For the average New Jerseyan who is sitting at home, those who are watching this broadcast, what say you about the future of this state, Seth Copperdale?
Mm-hmm. I think the future of the state under the duopoly, which I really think is just a monopoly, there's really only one party, and it's the party bosses with big money, is really not a very pleasant future. We have a situation where the money will stay right in the hand of the very highest folks, with the rest of us trying to come up with solutions with the trickle that is given. And until we have a revolution, until we say we're not going to come up with solutions from the trickle, we're going to have a wellspring from below, we're not going to see that happen. So we really, really need to be set free from this, and we have to stop just saying, the lesser of two evils. I could go on and on, but you gave me a minute. Let me just end by saying it has been an absolute joy to run for governor. I have spent 11 months touring the state. I know I've been out over 250 times now, and at least 200 of those times that I have been out, it has been in the poorest communities in the state. People say, gosh, I haven't seen you. As the people who say they haven't seen me are not the people who I've been focusing on firstly with my first message. It's a message that's for everyone, but I know that if a revolution is going to start, it's not going to start with those who are a little too close to the wonky wonks. It's going to start with those who are at the bottom and who have felt left out altogether and who've been hearing the last shall be first and the first shall be last, but have never seen it happen in their lifetime, and they're excited by the message that they're hearing.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming,
Thank
Seth.
you so much,
Thank you,
Seth.
Yellows. All right, welcome to the second segment of the Matthews broadcast. We are joined by one of the best event planners in the state, who I met through Ken Carter and Aisha Rodriguez of the Mitchell Business School. We are joined by the one and only Jerica Spence, and she is here to tell us how to decorate, how to innovate, how to inspire, and how to get your event just the way you want it. So I'm going to turn it over to Ken so Ken can ask you a few questions about your business.
Awesome. Jerica, and welcome to you. How you doing today?
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Jerica, I know a lot of people who are planning events in the near future.
Especially this time of the year.
Yes, and this is a great time of the year to get folk like you busy because we're not all creative like you are. And so, tell me the name of your business.
Decorating Agents.
Decorating Agent. All right.
Operation Decoration.
Okay, so you're an agent of decoration.
Yes.
Operation
That's my
Decoration.
mission.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
Go ahead, girl. I like it.
And tell me about some of the things that you do in the day-to-day business of decorating and event planning.
I search for vending space. I search for themes, ideas. I search for photographers, bakers, the event planning aspect. And then I also get my hands dirty. I decorate. I do columns, arcs, centerpieces. I even customize, personalize everything. Everything under the whole umbrella of party planning, decorating. I'm a one-stop shop.
All right. All right.
So you have some samples for our friends downstairs later?
Samples of,
Something that you've done?
well, I had it last week, Wednesday.
All right, I saw the one I got in the photograph.
Now, if a person wanted to contact you because they were planning a wedding or a retirement party, how would they be able to do that?
They could contact me through Facebook, facebook.com/decorating agents, one word, or they could call or text 862-257-0516.
Or you have to give that to me one more time because, it's hard for me. When I think of things today, I have to look at it 3 or 4 times. So say it for the audience one more time, would you?
Facebook.com/decorating agents, one word. And you could call or text 862-257-0516.
Awesome. I'm going to go back and ask you a question I should have asked you earlier. What is the unique value of your business too, or organization? What's the unique value?
I customize.
You
So
customize.
I could put your whatever you want, names, logos, anything you want on a balloon, on a poster, on a backdrop, anything. I offer customization services.
So it sounds like you're personalizing things so that people can feel connected to what they're doing.
Exactly, and we can make it their own, their ideas, their thoughts come to life.
All right, all right. Now, if we wanted to send some people your way, what would be a good referral for you?
Anybody who is just thinking about throwing a party, have an event coming up, and just, don't have the time to really put it together. Even churches, business owners who wants to draw attention to their business, they could contact me to put some columns outside their establishment. Moms, dads, grandmas, anybody.
Okay, let me ask you this.
It's party time of the year.
Yes, absolutely. Now, we have a wonderful and varied audience here at the Stan Matthews broadcast. And what would you offer our audience to support your business?
I will offer a free personalized wine glass.
All right.
Everyone
She
who comes
had
through,
something.
yes. Yes.
All right, all right. Well, that is certainly something tangible, and it's a beautiful one. You've decorated it. It's personalized. I see.
Yes, it says cinnamon,
Yes, that is
and
awesome.
it has a C on it, and this is glitter, and I have some bedazzle going around it. Very nice. Everything
and
I touch,
creative.
I make it very nice. Yes.
All right.
Very nice, very
It's
nice.
wonderful. It's wonderful.
What would you say to a customer today who said, "Oh, look, I'm planning a wedding and I need to get all of the things that I need." How would you handle that situation? What would you say first? How would you handle it?
I would first try to figure out exactly what kind of budget they're working with. I mean, I could work with any budget, but I need to know how much money, they're willing to spend on this engagement.
Okay, so you'll sit down with them and get all the
Yes.
particulars about what they want to ultimately have
Yes.
in the event, and
If
then
we have to,
personalize it.
if we have to mix and substitute some things so we could fall within that budget, that's
Right.
just what we're gonna have to do.
Okay, well, I know when I was coming up, my mom taught us how to stretch that dollar. Did you get that memo?
Yes, I do.
All
and,
right.
and that's, I mean, I truly believe some people, why can't, we can make the dream come true. We can make it happen.
Awesome.
Any kind of budget, champagne, wine, beer budget, we gonna make it happen.
Awesome. Hey, Jerica, how long have you been doing this, dear?
I've been doing this for 4 years now.
4 years? That is awesome. That is awesome. I'm going to end in a minute, but I'm going to ask you, just for my sake, knowing that I'm a little bit slower with remembering things, gotta write it down. If you would give me your contact information and your social media information one more time, because I want to make sure people can get to you. And I'm looking at the creativity on that glass, and I saw some things that you did last week, so I know they want to get a hold of you because you've got it going on. Give it to us one more time, would you?
Yes, I got it going on, people. I'm on Instagram too and Facebook, Decorating Agents. DecoratingAgents, one word, Instagram and Facebook. And you can also call me and text me. I'm very down to earth. So, and that is my number, my phone number, 862-257-0516. You can email me, info@decoratingagents.com. And you can even Snapchat me. I have a Snapchat too.
All right.
Well, I was going to say I wanted to surprise her a little bit later downstairs, but I will say on the air, we are going to have a year-end get-together for the Matthews broadcast. We have, depending on how we end up, we will probably be close to 420 companies that we've interviewed and spotlighted this year, Cornelius. So I don't know how many of them will come, but we're going to rent a space that could hold at least 250. And I just want you to know, since you have made the commitment to be a member of our inner circle, that it's your party.
That is awesome. Ooh, ain't that good?
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And for the benefit of the listening audience, I want all of you to hear me when I'm saying this. Get a hold of Jerica Spence.
That's right.
Because she's got what you need for your parties, your events, your Christmas events coming up. You've got you've got Thanksgiving coming up. Everybody's not getting in the kitchen cooking. She can help you plan an event, get the venue, and make it nice and save yourself some time.
Yes.
So please get a hold of Jerica Spence.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Your one-stop shop for everything.
All right.
I am so glad you came. We look forward to
be
your
here.
present, but more so we look forward to your future. The Credit Repair Show with my friend Pastor Angelo McCutcheon will follow us here on GEMS TV. We are going to a national platform next week. We're so excited about that. Remember, Matthew's broadcast audience, you cannot finish anything until you start something. Jerica has stepped out on faith and started her decorating business, and it's going to go somewhere. And she's got the faith and she's got the talent to be very successful in it. Remember, there are only two types of people on this earth. They're dreamers like you, Jerica, like Roderick, who owns this station, like our photographer Cornelius, like Ken Carter. These people are dreamers. They believe in the possible. And the second type of person are dream killers. So we here in the Matthews broadcast advise you, embrace the first, dreamers like yourselves, and run like heck from the second. This is Stan Matthews with Ken Carter and Jerica Spence, our custom decorative agent. So glad to have. We are going to be in the inner circle downstairs, 571 Bloomfield Avenue here in Verona at the Healthy Asian Cuisine. Come by and join us. There's a blessing here just for you. Stan Matthews, Ken Carter, and Jerica Spence saying good night.
Good night.
Good night.
God bless. 3 down.